What if I told you that right now, while the world is watching two U.S. destroyers navigate a mined strait and diplomats are flying home from failed peace talks, a small group of engineers, oil ministers, and sovereign wealth funds are quietly working on something that could make the Strait of Hormuz almost irrelevant? Not in 50 years, not in 20, possibly within this decade. There is a $10 billion oil route being seriously discussed right now, a route that bypasses Hormuz completely, runs through some of the most geopolitically stable land in the region, and could permanently shift who holds the cards in Middle Eastern energy. And the reason it's suddenly moving from a theoretical idea to an urgent conversation is because of exactly what's happening today. A closed strait, a $100 barrel of oil, and a world that just realized how dangerously dependent it is on 21 miles of Iranian-controlled water. Today, we're going inside that plan. What it is, where it runs, who's paying for it, what stands in the way, and whether it could actually work. Stay with me. This one is bigger than the headlines. To understand why this route matters so much, you have to understand the scale of the problem it's trying to solve. Before February 28, 2026, the Strait of Hormuz was handling roughly 20 million barrels of oil every single day. That is 20% of everything the world consumes. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar, all of their oil, all of their LNG exits through that one narrow channel, and Iran doesn't need to destroy a single oil field to cripple the global economy. It just needs to hold that strait, and that's exactly what it's been doing. Mines in the water, IRGC fast boats patrolling the edges, a tow booth charging $2 million a ship in cryptocurrency. The world's most important energy corridor turned into a hostage. So the question that governments from Tokyo to Berlin to New Delhi are asking right now isn't just, how do we reopen the strait? It's a harder, more important question. How do we make sure this can never happen again? And the answer keeps coming back to the same place. You build a way around it. Here's something most people don't know. The bypasses already exist. They were built years ago, specifically for a moment like this one. Saudi Arabia has the East-West pipeline, known as the Petro Line, a system that runs more than 1,000 kilometers across the Arabian Peninsula, from the oil fields on the Gulf Coast all the way to the Red Sea port of Yanbu. It was built during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, the last time Hormuz was seriously threatened. Today, at full capacity, it can move 7 million barrels per day. When the strait closed in late February, Saudi Arabia activated this pipeline immediately. Within weeks, it was running at full capacity for the first time in its entire history, pumping 7 million barrels a day toward Yanbu, where tankers were queuing up to take it to Asia. The UAE has its own bypass, the Abu Dhabi crude oil pipeline, running from the oil fields at Habshan to the port of Fujairah on the Gulf of Oman, just outside the strait. At full capacity, it moves about 1.8 million barrels per day, and it's been running hard since the day the closure began. But here is where the math gets brutal. Even with both pipelines running completely flat out, the world is still short more than 10 million barrels per day. That gap, that missing 10 million barrels every single day, is what's driving oil above $100 a barrel, putting pressure on India's economy, forcing Japan to tap strategic reserves, and giving Iran the leverage it needs at every negotiating table. So the existing bypasses help, but they are nowhere near enough. And that is exactly where the $10 billion conversation begins. For years, energy analysts and Gulf state planners have looked at Oman's southeastern coastline and seen an opportunity. The ports of Duke, Salalah, and Sohar all sit on the Arabian Sea, well outside the Strait of Hormuz, well outside Iran's easy reach. Deep water, modern infrastructure, and crucially connected to the Gulf by land. The idea is a new pipeline running from the oil-rich Gulf states southward through Oman to the port of Duke on the Arabian Sea. Analysts have estimated the cost at around $10 billion. $10 billion sounds like a lot, but here's how the math looks from the other side of the table. Under current wartime oil pricing, the exports such a pipeline could carry would pay for its entire construction within a single month. 1 month for a piece of infrastructure infrastructure that would last 50 years and permanently eliminate Hormuz as a choke point for those producers. And who would fund it? Gulf sovereign wealth funds are the obvious answer. Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund alone manages $700 billion in assets. Abu Dhabi Investment Authority manages even more. A $10 billion insurance policy against a closed strait is, in their terms, a rounding error, but it goes beyond Gulf money. Countries like Japan, South Korea, and India, all of which depend on Gulf oil and all of which have been hammered by this crisis, could be invited to co-invest in exchange for a guaranteed stake in the pipeline and guaranteed access to its capacity. They would contribute to construction costs. It transforms a Gulf infrastructure project into a global energy security investment, and that changes everything about the politics of getting it built. So why hasn't it been built already? Because nothing in this region is ever straightforward. The first obstacle is Iran. Iran understands exactly what a Duke pipeline would mean. It would strip away the single most powerful piece of leverage Iran has over the global economy, and Iran has already shown it's willing to strike pipeline infrastructure. In March, an Iranian drone attack hit a pumping station on Saudi Arabia's east-west pipeline and knocked out 700,000 barrels of capacity almost overnight. A Duke pipeline would be further from Iran's reach than Saudi Arabia's, but not unreachable. The second obstacle is Oman itself. Oman has historically maintained careful neutrality in Gulf conflicts. It has trade and diplomatic ties with Iran that go back decades. Whether Muscat is willing to host a pipeline explicitly designed to neutralize Iranian leverage is a genuinely open political question. And then there is time. A pipeline of this scale takes years to plan, permit, finance, and build. The crisis is happening now. Even if a deal was signed tomorrow, the route wouldn't be operational for the better part of a decade. But here's what's changed. Every time Hormuz has been threatened before, 1988, 2012, 2019, the crisis eventually de-escalated. The strait reopened, and the sense of urgency faded. The pipeline plans went back in the drawer. The investment never came. This time feels genuinely different. This closure has lasted longer, hit harder, and gone further than any previous crisis. The IMF has called a prolonged Middle East conflict the single biggest risk to the global economy in 2026. Japanese refiners are releasing strategic reserves. South Korean factories are slowing production. And Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar have just discovered they have zero bypass routes of any kind. None. The political will that was never quite there before may finally be there now, not because the world suddenly became more rational, but because the cost of doing nothing just became impossible to ignore. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide. Iran has weaponized those 21 miles more effectively than almost any military operation could, and the world has spent decades accepting that reality because it was always easier to hope the crisis would pass than to spend $10 billion making sure it couldn't happen again. That calculation has changed. The crisis didn't pass, it got worse. And right now, in ministries and sovereign wealth funds and engineering firms across the Gulf, the serious conversation about a permanent bypass has finally actually begun. Whether it gets built, whether the politics align, whether Oman says yes, whether the funding materializes before the next crisis, we don't know yet. But the fact that we're having this conversation seriously in the middle of a live war tells you everything about how much this moment has changed the world. We're covering every development as it breaks. Subscribe and hit the bell because the next chapter of this is going to move fast.